You swipe a debit card for a $50 dinner and barely think about it, but hand that same person $50 in actual paper bills for the same dinner, and something strange happens. They hesitate. They feel it. The number on the receipt is identical, but the pain is not. This is not random. Your brain does not process a card tap and a cash payment the same way. And understanding why is one of the most useful things you can learn about your own spending. When you hand over physical cash, your brain registers a real, tangible loss. You are watching something leave your hand. You can count what remains in your wallet afterward, and that emptier wallet is a visible, physical reminder of what you just spent. Researchers call this feeling of pain of payment, and cash produces the strongest version of it. A card does something completely different. There is no physical object leaving your possession. You tap, you hear a beep, and the transaction is over in less than a second. Nothing visibly disappears. Your wallet looks exactly the same after the purchase as it did before, so your brain has almost nothing to register the loss with. Which is exactly why cards make spending feel abstract instead of real. The number on your bank app is just that, a number, and numbers do not create the same emotional weight that watching money physically vanish does. So your brain quietly treats card spending as less real than it actually is, even though the money leaving your account is just as real as cash would be. This gap between what is happening financially and what your brain feels is happening becomes even wider with tap-to-pay and phone payments. Each new layer of convenience removes one more physical cue that used to remind you that spending has a cost. A signature used to make you pause for a second. A PIN used to make you pause for a second. Now, for many purchases, there is no pause at all, just a tap and a chime. And here's where it gets interesting. This is not a personal weakness or a lack of discipline. It is not that you are careless with money. It is that your brain is running on instincts built for a world where money was always physical, and it is not caught up to a world where money is mostly just numbers moving between accounts you cannot see or touch. Because of this, the same person who would never hand over 3 crisp $20 bills for a pair of shoes they don't really need can tap a card for those same shoes without a second thought, not because they suddenly stopped caring about money, but because the card removed the one signal their brain relies on to feel the cost. This is exactly why people who switch back to using cash for certain categories, like eating out or entertainment, often report spending noticeably less in those areas without changing their income, their goals, or their self-control in any other way. The spending did not become harder because they became stronger. It became harder because the pain of payment came back. So what do you actually do with this knowledge? You don't need to abandon cards completely, and you don't need to carry stacks of cash everywhere. What you need is to reintroduce friction in the exact places where your spending tends to slip through unnoticed. For a lot of people, that means using cash specifically for the categories where card spending quietly adds up, like small daily purchases, snacks, or impulse buys that never feel significant on their own. You can also recreate some of that missing feeling of pain of payment digitally by checking your account balance immediately after every purchase, instead of days later. That small moment of seeing the number actually drop mimics some of the same effect that watching cash disappear does, because it turns an abstract transaction back into something visible. The goal is not to make spending feel painful for the sake of suffering. The goal is to make spending feel real again, because real spending gets noticed, and noticed spending gets controlled. Invisible spending, on the other hand, just keeps happening in the background until you look at your statement and wonder where it all went. Once you understand that your brain is not being lazy or weak, but simply reacting the way it was designed to react to invisible money, spending stops feeling like a personal failure and starts feeling like a system you can actually work with instead of against. The people who manage money well are not the ones who feel more pain about spending than everyone else. They're the ones who figured out how to bring that feeling back exactly when they need it most.